guys, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to another Secret Podcast. The setup on this one, if you're watching the video version, is obviously a little bit different than normal. I've been turning my apartment into a studio lately, in part to save money, so then I don't have to actually go out and rent full-fledged studios, and which would probably require crew to help with gear and everything like that. So I thought I want to see if I could just be more resourceful with the space that I have. So you'll notice in the last video I did last Monday, which was what it really looks like to be a minimalist, I used this white backdrop. I got this gray backdrop for some other future videos. What I'm going to do, I don't think I'm going to do it in this video. It's actually not going to be possible in this video because I have the pole in the shot. But I'm going to kind of mask out the exterior sides where you can actually see my apartment, so it looks like I'm in an entire gray backdrop studio. So it's been a lot of fun. You know, takes a little bit of work to get it right and to make sure it's not doesn't look like shit, but I'm really excited with how that stuff has been turning out. I've got a behind the scenes breakdown of what minimalism really looks like, that video, where I show you how I set all this stuff up. I show you how I light it. And also, I think more interesting to a lot of people is what do I do on the post-production side? Because shooting it is one thing, and I think it's going to help for you guys to be able to see how I made that. But then it's also how did I bring all these pieces together? How did I make it feel like a really big studio versus this kind of narrow corridor that I currently have? So that video I'm going to release next week. Things have been kind of busy, kind of crazy, just trying to stay on top of it and not do too much, which actually relates to a lot of the new videos that I'm going to be making over the next 2 months, which I already told you guys about. The one is kind of an exploration of hustle. And I think I'm going to break it apart into 2 to 3 different pieces to explore this topic a little bit further. I just got confirmation that Gary Vee is in to do an interview. This was maybe a week ago that I got that confirmation, but I've been very excited, and I've been deep diving and reading all of his books and preparing for this interview. All I got was a tweet from him that said in, and then I heard from some people that work at the company that they are working on it, that it might take a little bit longer to have this scheduled in than they originally thought. So, it might be a couple weeks. We got holidays coming up, so it might even be in January, but something to look forward to. Anyway, in this AMA, I'm going to be answering your questions, similar topics that we've talked about before, but I've got some great, specific, concrete bits that I think will help out a lot of people who are freelancers trying to make a living as a creative. Some interesting things that you might not know about me, where I get my music from, what Natalie does for work. Natalie is, as you guys know, is my wife. She's my wife now. We are husband and wife. It's not weird. Doesn't feel weird. And where do you get your inspiration? Lots of cool stuff. So why don't I just get into it, and then the podcast will start. That's how we're going to start it. Let me have some coffee first. Ben Button. Hey, Matt. I'm trying to at least semi get my life together and attempt minimalism. I frequently go through self-help phases where I talk about it with my friends more than I even practice it. Do you have any advice for beginning minimalism and the friends who trash you for always trying to change your life but never actually changing? I want to move in silence. That's beautiful. I really like that. I want to move in silence and not even tell my friends I'm trying to change my life, but I feel like I'm never actually going to do it. This, Ben, seems like a position that I myself was in for a very long time. Definitely the earlier part of my life, say high school and beyond. I tried to exercise. I was always the smallest kid in school. So for me, it was, I always just wanted to put on muscle, to not be this scrawny kid. And I tried and I failed, and I tried and I failed. And through that process, I eventually started to pick up some things that worked for me and that worked really well. The one thing I will give you in terms of actionable advice is stop giving a shit what your friends think. You have to simultaneously care a lot about what you do in your life and what you're creating, while also not giving a fuck about what anybody else thinks. So forget about your friends. Even in starting this YouTube channel that I have and all the content that I've made, I've had to just completely ignore what my friends would think of me, because if that's all I thought about, I would never take any action. I would never move forward. Some people say that it's nice to have that kind of, peer pull to do something, to have some accountability for building habits and making lifestyle changes, which I think can help. But I would say maybe just find one friend that you want to do this with. Hey, one friend wants to wake up early with you at 6 a.m., maybe not in the same bed, but wake up with you, and maybe you guys text each other and keep each other accountable and on track. Another thing you could do is to start a blog or to journal, either whether it's public or private. I think public would probably motivate you a little bit more, even though nobody's probably going to be reading it in the beginning. And even though you aren't trying to create this blog to build a following, audience, whatever, you're doing it because you want to keep yourself accountable and that you're putting this out there. And even if it was 3 people that saw it, you would want to make sure that you follow through on your word. So failure is a part of the process. You've been failing a lot. I've failed a lot. I continue to fail a lot. There are so many habits that I try to bring in, whether it be meditation or eating healthy, that I often fall back into my bad routines and my bad patterns. The trick is not to get too guilty. Don't beat yourself up over it. The idea is that you really want to make sure that you can keep it up and keep going and keep that momentum. And for me, that's where books were very helpful. It was helpful for me to read or listen to at least one thing a day for as little as 15 minutes that helped me get inspired, that gave me some practical, actionable steps to take. So if you're trying to wake up early, listen to the audiobook My Miracle Morning. It's a corny-ass book by this dude, Hal, but it's one of those books that kind of continues you on that path. So if you wake up at 6 a.m. and the first thing you listen to is that podcast, it's going to reaffirm everything you're trying to do. And if you can get past 2 weeks, I found 2 weeks for me, if I'm every single day for 2 weeks going to the gym, it just, from that point, it starts connecting and it becomes hard not to. I've hardwired that habit into my brain that it is harder for me not to go to the gym than it is to go to the gym. That might sound crazy for people who struggle to go to the gym, but once you build up the momentum and once it's a habit, that's what it's going to feel like. So I would say stick with it and don't give up. You're going to fail. That's okay. You got this. Good luck, Ben. Bruno, sir, what type of company could I target for bigger budgets? I know the coffee shop down the street won't hire me for a $2,000 video. It's most probably out of budget for them. Corporate client, big business. How do I work my way up from $500 to $1,000 small projects? That is a great question, and I love how specific it is, because this is definitely something that I struggled with myself. I started out making videos, $100 for a video, and I would put 30 to 40 hours worth of work into these videos. So I'm maybe making minimum wage, and it's tough because at that point, your skills, if they're not good enough, if you're not a good enough filmmaker, it's very hard to charge a premium price, because especially for somebody that may be a little bit skittish about paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for a video. So what I would suggest you do is, for now, just make sure that you're really, really good. Keep focusing on the craft. And there are clients out there, as you start to progress a little bit better, that will allow you to charge bigger budgets. For me, I worked with a local hardware store. Not like a hardware store. I guess they were kind of like a contracting / hardware firm in Somerville, New Jersey. And they were big enough. I don't know how many employees they had, maybe 30, 50 employees. Probably not even that. But big enough that they were able to pay me decent money, like $2,000, $3,000 for a video, sometimes more. And they were the kind of client that actually gave me a lot of repeat business. So they would do commercials every quarter. I would re-edit this commercial, this end tag for them. That was a monthly project. And I think maybe it was $400 a month just to re-edit that end tag. But that's great money and that's great consistency there. I think the idea too is a lot of people are like saying, how do I get new clients? A lot of times you just want to get to the place where you can get your your old clients to give you more work. And then it's much easier to do that than it is to find new people to pay you. I also started working with startups, companies like Vidler. They were a video hosting platform. Not sure if they're still up to it these days, but that was my first retained client. I made a couple $1,000s a month for years with them, which was huge. But tech companies, startups are a really great place. They're companies that usually see the value in video. And if you're able to connect and deliver the right tone for these videos, then I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to land those projects. The one thing I'll say is that it doesn't matter where you live. If you're willing to travel, it doesn't matter where you live, because the better you get, the bigger budget projects you're going to be able to pull in, the more clients will be willing to fly you anywhere. So I moved to New York mostly for opportunity, because I thought there was going to be a lot more clients there I could work with. And yeah, I actually ended up working with some clients here and there in New York, but I flew to San Francisco so often. I would make 8, 10, sometimes probably not 15 trips, but like up to 10 trips a year to San Francisco to shoot interviews with tech companies. And I just made it be known that, yeah, I work between San Francisco and New York. And at this point, budgets are probably over $10,000 for me. So to pay $500 for flights, to add that as an expense at the end, was no big deal. Just make it clear that travel is added towards the end of the project. Of course, bar mitzvahs, wedding videos, these projects often range $5,000 and up. The bar mitzvah videos, I made like one bar mitzvah video I did for $8,000. So they are pretty lucrative. And while they may not be the most creative or passionate area to place your time, I do think that it's worth it to start to make some money. Because here's the thing. If you get a bar mitzvah for $8,000, and previously you were only getting projects for $200 to $500, you don't have to do those projects anymore, because that would probably take you an entire year or 6 months to make that amount of money with all these small projects adding up. So once you're able to push and break through that threshold, get that first $10,000 projects. It sounds crazy now, I'm sure it does, but once you're able to break through that threshold, it's just going to get easier, and it's going to become more fun, and you're going to be able to say no to clients, and you're going to be able to say no. You see the email coming in, and you're like, I know they can't afford me. I am so certain they can't afford me. You can just sense it in the way that they communicate and they present their message and what they want from you in that first email, that you say, hey, my project rate starts at $10,000. Would love to work with you. Let me know if you want to hop on a call. That usually scares them off completely, but that's when it really starts to get fun, and that's the place that I think that you want to get to. Jason Brunt. This drives me crazy about your videos. Why or how is every shot's dialogue audio of the same quality? I can't understand recording a monologue with... I can understand recording a monologue with a shotgun condenser and using lots of B-roll and cutaways, but even that walking shot into the minimalist studio in your latest video sounded exactly the same. Surely that mic wasn't on camera. I should have had like an exclamation point and a question mark at the end of that sentence. The shot-to-shot consistency of quality you have is jaw-dropping, and as an aspiring filmmaker, it's maddening. I like that. I feel you, man. I've been there, and I continue to be in that place where you're so mad at somebody because it's so good. It like equally inspires you to want to push yourself and do better work, while also feeling deflated and feeling like, oh, I'm never going to get there. The truth is that you will, and it is easy to get there. The other truth is that if you really look or listen closely to that video, this is the one that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, what minimalism really looks like, the audio does vary. And it's not significant, but in that specific shot you were talking about, it was maybe one of the only vlog style on the fly type clips in that video, in which I was using my vlog. Let me show you. Let me get the camera. Ugh. So this is the this is the my vlog setup camera. It's G Master 16 to 35 millimeter lens with the Rode mic on top, and this is exactly what I used for that shot. So it was on camera. This microphone is pretty expensive. I mean, it costs maybe $300, which I personally think is a bit much for what it is, but it's still the best one on the market, and it like automatically turns on when you turn the camera on, which is really important so you don't forget to actually record stuff. But in terms of quality, it doesn't come close to like this Shure mic. I don't know where I should have gotten the other one, but I have a Sennheiser mic. There's a video called How I Make My Videos, which would give you like a look at all this gear and stuff. But that microphone specifically is really, really good. It's a great boom mic pull. But when I was, say, in that big white backdrop space, that's what I used. I used this overhead stand here, the Manfrotto stand, and I had that mic very close to me, and then I just actually masked out and erased, kind of like you would in Photoshop, but I used After Effects to get rid of the microphone in the shot. And then obviously the voiceovers were shot with a Shure mic. So there were 3 different microphones used. The Shure mic and the Sennheiser mic, both are top notch, really high quality, also very expensive. This Rode microphone, here's what I'll have you do. Put headphones on. If you have noise canceling headphones, even better. And listen to that part in the video. And I'm sure that you'll be able to notice, even if it's a subtle difference, you'll be able to notice that the quality of the audio is actually much lower. The thing is, on the platforms that we're watching these things, if you're watching on your phone or your computer, the sound quality is not going to be increased. It's like watching a 4K video on your phone. Like there's a lot more that you can get away with. And that's why actually when I do make my videos, I will oftentimes throw them on my phone. I'll upload them to YouTube. And my final thing I do before I click public or before I schedule to play is to pull it up on my phone or pull it up on my computer and watch it back without having headphones on, without having nice speakers attached to it, because I want to hear how most people are going to hear it. And that helps me just with my levels. It helps me to see the color. Is it way off? And only unless it's drastic, only unless it's like, oh my God, this I cannot live with this. I cannot publish this video having it sound or look like this. I will go back and then edit. But normally I just let it go. But it is nice for me to be able to see and understand how other people are getting it. I'll say, dude, it's just like you continually try to improve and get better and better. I mean, I've gotten a lot of new gear and a lot of stuff that will just bring my production value up a little bit. I just got actually invested in another Canon C200, which is a huge investment, a huge purchase, but I'm now using it for more doc style where I have interviews between me and another person. I'm going to be using it now for the podcast. For me, quality is so important, and I think we should never intentionally make the quality of our videos worse. I understand if all you can afford right now is an iPhone, I say, yes, go for it. That's all you got, use it. But when we start to improve our craft, we want to continually get better. And this is not only going to help you with freelance work, but it's also going to help you if you were trying to build an audience, because people identify that and they see that, and it's not subjective. You can say, oh, that's a beginner. That person obviously doesn't know what they're doing. That person's fucking really good. And there's room in the middle there, but I think that you just have to be relentless about trying to be as good as you can possibly be. Thanks for the question, Jason. All right. Next question here is from Casey Martinson. I'm interested to know what you do to keep your self-esteem up. Okay. Self-esteem. I think this is probably the bad question, but like naturally, I think I have a high self-esteem, but obviously if I didn't do what I loved, if I wasn't passionate about my work, my self-esteem would probably drop. If I didn't go to the gym, if I didn't feel healthy, if I wasn't exercising, it would probably drop. If I'm sure there's many, many other factors that could play into my self-esteem and my well-being. And for me, it's just about focusing on continually improving. I like movement. I like to keep going. I'm very ambitious. So for me, to focus on my work makes me be less self-conscious about myself and how others perceive me. I'm not as worried as much about what people think about me because I'm already busy creating that next thing. And I think that the more experience you get, the more confidence you build in whatever area it is of life that you're working on, the more your self-esteem is going to rise. So if you looked at me just out of high school, even just out of college, my self-esteem probably wasn't very high because I hadn't been doing it enough. But you have to take that first step. You have to decide, okay, I'm actually going to start to focus on my health, create these priorities, understand what is a non-negotiable for you. And then from there, your confidence and self-esteem will grow and build. Christian Swales. How and when do you spend your time, your quiet time, soul care every day? Time in solitude, reading, journaling, praying. How has it affected? Is it affected by travel? Okay, so generally, here's the thing. Like, I'm not perfect, and I'm actually doing a lot of videos on this too, where I sometimes cross the line, go a little bit too far, work a little bit too long, work weekends, nights, all that stuff. But over the past year, I've found some solitude and quiet time in the morning. I'll make a cup of coffee. I'll sit out on my porch. I'll watch the sunrise. I'll just relax and kind of take it all in, even for 15, 20 minutes. And for me, that is the perfect way to just realize it's not just roll over out of bed. You're on email, you're on Instagram, you're already like fucking numbing your brain as to, and I think it just drains your life and it pulls some joy out of your life. So 15 minutes every morning is all it takes for me to really feel grounded, to feel like, okay, I'm not rushing. I'm not always in a hurry. I don't always need to hustle. So that to me is where I find solitude. Also, like, I have an off switch when Natalie comes home from work. And while that is not personal, quiet solitude time, for me, it is a trigger to disconnect and then reconnect with those that are closest to me. So I think those kind of things really help to kind of keep me grounded. Oh, yeah. Also, the gym. I know a lot of people like workout buddies. They like going to their friends with their friends to the gym and then having somebody to spot and work out and chat with. I do not like that. People have said, hey, Matt, can I come? We should go work out at the gym together. And that's just not a thing that I'm ever going to do. Like, sometimes, maybe like once or twice a week. Sometimes I'll go to classes with Natalie just because it's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting. It's cool to push yourself and to be in that environment. But for the most part, the gym for me is super quiet solitude time. It's 30 minutes to an hour of me just being able to focus on my workouts. Half the time I don't listen to music. Half the time I do. But when I don't listen to music, I'm just paying attention to my workouts. I'm oftentimes I'm not trailing off in thought. I'm just in the moment, just doing those bicep curls. But it definitely is, that to me has been instrumental in grounding myself. Jacob Holt, I found the breakfast burrito you made in Sydney inspiring and made my own. Wow. What other meals do you eat regularly and enjoy? Any recommendations? I have to say that I don't know if I mentioned it in that video, but like what I think is healthy and what I would say is healthy might not be what other people think is healthy. So, if you're vegan, just substitute, just swap stuff out and create your own thing. Maybe follow somebody that's vegan, like Rich Roll. I'm sure he's got tons of suggestions on how to eat healthy as a vegan. But a good meal for me is like tuna fish sandwich. Not eating it too often because mercury and all that, but that's a nice, good, consistent meal to have a few times a week. Smoothies very regularly, 4 to 6 days a week. I'll be having a smoothie which has orange, apple, banana, spinach, and kale, and a little bit of water. That to me helps to fuel my workouts. Protein shakes. So I actually did 30 days of being a vegan, and it's very difficult now for me to go back to the old protein powders. So now I have like a vegan protein powder mix, which works well, just is better on my stomach. And dinner a lot of times might be chicken, rice, and veggies. I go to Chipotle quite a bit. It's like a nice solid meal for me that also, gives me a lot of protein, carbs, and not much veggies, but a little bit. I try to get most of my veggies just through my smoothies. And then through dinner, I'll have usually a side of veggies. But yeah, those are kind of, I guess, my main go-to meals. And then Nat and I order out. We go out to eat quite a bit. That's definitely one of the things that we value most. So we do spend quite a bit of money, quite a bit of our budget in those areas. Solomon Harvey, what is something that many people don't know about you? How about the time I got sued for $7 million? If you've been following the podcast for a while, if you've listened to a lot of episodes, especially early on, or you saw one video that I made on YouTube about how I got 50,000 subscribers in 2 months, you might know about this story. But for everybody else, this was kind of the story that defined my life for a very long time. So I was sued for $7 million by a company called A&P, Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company. They were the biggest grocery chain in America. They were the first grocery chain in America, and at one point having hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of stores all across the country. And my dad was the produce manager there. I worked there with my brother, and Mark and I, my brother, both worked in the produce department. And we made a parody rap video at the very early stages of YouTube. Now, this is interesting because I was just thinking about this recently, but this is probably around 2007. And YouTube was getting very popular. I was very inspired by sketch comedy, and I really wanted to make a living as a sketch comedy filmmaker on YouTube. I wanted to, at that time, be a full-time YouTuber. If I could make a career out of that, that would have been my dream. So it's kind of amazing to think that in a way, I definitely just circled back to that original vision when I was younger. And it feels good to know that. That wasn't the plan all along to come back to YouTube. I found other passions along the way, and I found other ways to make that passion work outside of YouTube. But it's kind of cool to see that. But anyway, I made this video with Mark. I shot it, edited it. We kind of both wrote our own raps, and we created this parody rap video called Produce Paradise. And it was about just working in the produce department. It was supposed to be like just a kind of inappropriate joke, crossing boundaries and crossing lines that we probably shouldn't, pretending to pee on customers' produce. So it's very like we were, it was, maybe we deserved to get sued. I don't know. But it was just a joke. And then we put it online, and then didn't get many views, but then the word started to obviously around this small town in New Jersey get around. The manager of the store found out, and then soon enough, it was all the way up to corporate. And then A&P, the company, decided to sue us for $7 million for making this parody rap video. And we were also fired, obviously. And now we're in a position where we had no idea what to do. But one thing was sure was that it was an interesting story for news outlets. So news outlets, they brought us on to national television, American Morning. They drove us to CNN to be on live television, Fox News. We were on those shows where lawyers would argue for and against us, and there'd be these two people saying, hey, we think these boys were wrongfully sued and wrongfully terminated. And then the other two people on the panel would say, these guys are complete idiots. And I'm like sitting there on the phone. I'm like, guys, I'm right here. This is really hurtful. So it went on for about a year. We ended up settling and getting out of the lawsuit. It was a long, I would say, arduous proceeding. It definitely took its toll on my parents. They definitely were very stressed out by it. I learned a lot from it, and in the end, I think it reaffirmed that I can make a difference, I can be heard, and I can in some way affect change with the films that I make. Because there were a lot of people that rallied to support us. There was a whole community of people that bought T-shirts, that donated money, that said that they would never go to A&P again, that they would boycott them because of what they did to us. And so to see that support and to see the kind of effect and see some people laughing and enjoying the video itself was like my first taste of what it would mean to create videos for a large audience. And that's something that you might not know about me. Thanks for the question, Solomon. Simon Warner, where do you get your music from that you use in your videos? Ooh. Well, I mainly use Epidemic Sound. I think it's epidemicsound.com. They have great music selections there that you can use in your YouTube videos that It's very affordable, and you have unlimited selection of music, which is massively important. So before places like Epidemic Sound, before you could have these memberships to these music platforms, you had to pay for individual tracks or go to YouTube's free library or steal music and risk having your video taken down. So now, because it's hard. I mean, and like I would sometimes for even personal projects, I've paid $200 for a track, which is crazy because like I can't spend that kind of money on music. And what if the track is just a 15-second clip that I use in a video? It's just not worth it. So having something like Epidemic is very helpful to me, that I can just go through and pull out whatever music I need. I can download 20 tracks and try out different ones and then find the one that's perfect for me. So I definitely I would recommend checking out that. Music Bed, I believe, also started a similar membership type platform, so you can look into them as well if you would like. I think it might be a little bit more expensive. Justin Miller, I would be interested in hearing about books that have had an influence on you. Also, how do you approach reading and learning in general? I've noticed the Atomic Habits book make a few cameos in your videos. I'm about halfway through it currently. So reading was my top priority when I first started out and listening to audiobooks. It was like the main driver to how I stayed motivated and how I learned about these certain concepts when it comes to business, entrepreneurship, and standing out and making a difference. These days, I honestly don't read as much. I was voracious in the beginning. I would read a book a week for a year. But now I just don't have that kind of time, and I would actually rather allocate my spare time in other ways. And sometimes it's just watching Netflix with Natalie. Sometimes it's playing video games. Now, if I'm reading a book, it's oftentimes for research. So as I mentioned, I've got a Gary Vee interview coming up. So I've already read 3 of his books through audio. And it's cool because actually then I'm learning a lot. I'm really understanding him a little bit better. And I think for a big interview like that, it's worth it for me to really understand this person, to make sure that I don't go in with any false assumptions about who he is and what he stands for. And Gary Vee, I think, is himself just a brilliant person. So I've learned a lot through that. That's it though. Yeah, no. And I try to, and I think it actually is helpful. I think it's very helpful to always stay curious, to always understand that you're learning and that you don't know everything. That is so important. It makes sure that you stay humble, but that you also stay on your toes and that you don't get too comfortable where you are. And that's like when I do these documentary style videos where I'm exploring something, oftentimes I'm learning in the moment and I'm researching and I'm discovering something for myself that I previously didn't know. Or oftentimes I'm relearning something that I already knew in the past. And our memories are very fragile. They're very short. We can't contain that much information. So a book that you read 10 years ago, you could read it today and pull something entirely different from it. So I think we always need to continue to learn, whether it's through documentaries or it's through books. Jennifer Hopsicker, I'm curious what Nat does for work. I like seeing the behind the scenes, how you got that shot info. Is that knowledge from practice or is it self-taught? To answer the question on filmmaking, it is, I would say, from practice and doing it myself. That's the biggest thing I learned, was that everybody in my college and school were going out and they were like partying, having fun, and enjoying their time in college, which was great. And I had a bit of that myself, but those in my department, those that were broadcast telecommunication majors, didn't have the same skills that I had because I was out making videos all the time on weekends. I was starting to develop client work my junior year of college, and I was starting to really get hands-on practical experience, which just kept stepping me up. And I mean, it even started earlier than that, but it was just like always making videos, always be interested in it. And that to me was super invaluable. So it's like, don't wait for the syllabus. Don't let the syllabus tell you, okay, this is what you're going to learn. This is what you're going to do. Because oftentimes a teacher, a professor doesn't know your path best. And a lot of times the best way to learn is just to get your hands dirty and try. Natalie actually, believe it or not, works in advertising. She works at an agency where she's a strategist and she creates and tries to figure out how to promote certain films, products, usually television shows, I don't know if I can mention clients that she works with, but she's got some like really interesting clients that she works with. She's very impassioned by it. She loves it. She loves the creative process of trying to figure out these big ideas that help companies like promote a movie. Like if The Rock comes out with a new movie, he comes out with, oh, there's a siren. Comes out with Skyscraper. It's like, all right, why would people want to come to this movie? Why do people watch The Rock? And it's understanding that and then figuring out how do I then let people know about this. So advertising is one of those things that I'm going to delve into further, and it's amazing to have the insight from Natalie about kind of the ethical ways to do it, and also just the fact that all advertising isn't bad. It's not inherently bad. There is good in it. It's just that sometimes companies and people can use it in manipulative ways that I think are detrimental to our overall well-being, that are a bit unethical. So that's definitely something that I actually am interested in talking and delving into further. John, I'm a software engineer that works a 9 to 5, and I love what I do, and I keep wanting to build up my skills. But when I do projects outside of work, I feel burned out pretty fast from doing both. How do I balance doing my day job while also building my skills outside of work time? Cool. You can't have it all. I think that's one thing that's important to say and to understand, is that you can't work a full-time job while dedicating all your spare time to something that you love, while also maintaining your health, fitness, working out, relationships, travel, exploring other hobbies. Like, you can't do everything. You certainly can't do everything all at once. So some things you might have to drop. So what's more important to you, these side projects you're working on or your full-time career that you have? Is there a way that you could then transition from your full-time career to these side projects? That might be something to look into. If you really love your full-time job and you don't want to give it up, then keep it. Then I imagine that would be the best decision for you to do. But try to find balance. Understand that sometimes you're not going to be able to keep that balance all the time, that sometimes it sways a little bit, and sometimes maybe we're working on this project that we're really passionate about, so it means that we can't go to the gym for the next couple of weeks. That's okay. But you do have to identify the non-negotiables. What are the things that are most important to you? And then you can start to remove those things that aren't. So maybe social media might be one of those things that you're spending a lot of time on that's worth cutting away. Maybe watching Netflix or watching TV is less important to you than these side projects. So figure out what to cut away, and then I think it'll be a little bit easier for you then to try to manage and bring these things into your life that you really do care about. Raziel Felix, could you tell us a story from your childhood where something happened or something was said to you which others may see as inconsequential, but instead had an impact on who you are or what you do? I do remember, this was like my senior year of high school. Mr. Mohan stopped me in the hallway to tell me that he thought I did a superb job as the host of the morning show, the morning announcements at my high school. And I don't know why that still sticks with me to this day, but I think it was because I was putting myself into a very uncomfortable place. I was being broadcast to the entire school of probably close to 900 students, and you open yourself up, especially I think a high schooler doing that. Like, it is such a vulnerable place to be in. And I think I probably had a lot of self-doubt around that time. But for somebody to say, like, hey, he was truly genuine. He was like, and like, he was also like a shit talker. He was very funny. So you very rarely saw him in a serious moment. But he pulled me aside. He's like, listen, you're really, really good at this. Like, you should really think about pursuing something down on this path. And that to me was just like crazy, because you just don't get those kind of moments very often. I don't think a lot of times adults see the potential in students, see the potential in what the younger generation can do and what they can create. And I think that really inspired me, and it stayed with me for a long time. And, it's crazy just to think like what one small compliment can do, what one nice gesture can have, and the effect it can have on your entire life. So Mr. Mohan, thanks for that. That was a solid move. Daniel Byrne. Hey, Matt, newish Patreon supporter and longtime fan. I was wondering what your story structuring process is like for your videos. Like, how exactly do you go from idea, conception to actualized video? I'd be fascinated to see your process. Now, this is something that I do break down in some of the videos, but obviously like the process itself varies from video to video. Usually I start out by writing. So I would say 9 times out of 10, I have to start out by writing. I have to say, all right, I'm going to make a video. Let's say the waking up at 6 a.m. video. I got to say, okay, what are all the things that have helped me wake up early in my life? What were the struggles that I had? Let me just write this out like it's going to be an essay. And then meanwhile, also trying to think of what are visual components to this that might be interesting. How might be I able to tell this story? What do I say on camera, and what do I illustrate through B-roll? And then what I do is I just start to develop this script. And then if I feel like it's not full enough, if I feel like I don't have enough there, or I'm not just doing enough justice by myself, I'll do research and I'll find out other things that have helped people wake up early. And then I'll pull those in, and then I'll start to make this a little bit more of a structured video. I mean, when you're making an 8-minute video, it's actually pretty long, and there's actually a lot of content and a lot of things that you need to say to fill up that space, to make sure that you feel like you've created a video that's powerful and that's going to leave somebody with some actionable steps to take. So the writing starts first. Now, a lot of times I'll record that as just a voiceover and just put the entire thing in the timeline. So now I have the full voiceover laid out. I have no video, but I kind of can see, okay, this is the story. This feels like it makes sense from beginning to end. And then I will shoot my B-roll that I need to bring into the edit, and then I'll start to chop that together, and then I will shoot some of my A-roll, which then needs to fit its way in between these voiceover clips. And then you just edit, sometimes realizing you don't have enough and going to get that and then going back into the edit. But that's the general process. It's pretty messy. There's some resemblance of a structure there from beginning to end, and I'm trying to fine-tune it the more I create videos in this similar fashion. When I create the podcast, it is much more linear. It's, prep for the podcast, have the guest over, do the interview, capture the footage onto the computer, edit it. The editing of that is usually pretty consistent from one to the other. It's 3 cameras. The audio, I copy and paste all the effects and audio and color from one project to the next, and that saves me a ton of time. And those are the kind of things that you learn as you develop your own process. Freddie Dalton, where do you get the ideas and inspiration for your videos? I'm new here and absolutely love your content. You have opened my eyes to the benefits of minimalism too. Well, thank you very much, Freddie. That's very nice of you to say. Okay, let's say specifically like with minimalism, I was inspired by a lot of people early on, like Leo Babauta, Josh and Ryan from the Minimalists. They were some of the first people that I really saw the concreteness of what it was about minimalism. They're the ones that said, if there's something that you don't value or doesn't add value or bring joy to your life, and identifying that minimalism is not this extreme lifestyle, knowing not to take it too far. Leo Babauta is one of those authors for me that really has helped me through the years, especially early on, identifying how to build healthy habits. Continually inspired by other creators on YouTube these days. People like Peter McKinnon are incredibly talented. Mango Street, Colin and Samir, these people are amazing, talented creators. Jason Zook, who is actually a Patreon subscriber, and he's also somebody he's a good friend. Him and his wife, Caroline, make amazing content, amazing websites, podcasts, like the creativity that they put into everything they do, as well as the authenticity and the message that they deliver is inspiring to me. So I think you got to take that inspiration. You got to let that inspiration fuel you and not let it get you down. So don't get bummed out because other people are doing cool shit. What's the best way? This is Liam McDonald, to start embracing minimalism. Okay. I think whether you're embracing minimalism or you're trying to turn your life around, you're trying to do something like positive with your life, I think the best thing that you can do right now is to get a piece of paper and a pen and start to write down what you want your life to look like. I'm imagining you embarking on minimalism because there's maybe things that you're not happy about. Maybe you have a lot of distractions in your life. Maybe you have too much stuff and you want to simplify your life. So it starts with identifying the life that you would like to have. So write out an actual day. Like, what does a day in the life of your ideal day look like? If you have a 9-to-5 job and you want to be a freelancer, add that. What time do you wake up? Is it 6 a.m.? Do you go to the gym right away? What do you eat? Do you make a smoothie? Write out in as much detail as you can what your dream day, your dream future would look like. And then that will give you a better vision to work back from there. A lot of times with client work, we'll like say, well, what's your deadline? And then we'll work back from there to see how we can fit everything into that. So you have this ideal version of what your day would look like, which would then is like a microcosm of what your entire life would look like if you made and took action. And then start to work towards that. Start to maybe do one thing at a time. Take one step at a time. Start waking up early. Maybe going to the gym in the morning. Whatever it is, it takes these small steps to build up to the big picture. And for me, writing things down, putting it on paper has been a massive shift for me to get it out of my head and to make it real. Trevor, did you have any fears or concerns about putting yourself and aspects of your personal life on YouTube for all the world to see? Was it difficult to make that leap and get past the resistance? It wasn't that hard because in the beginning, nobody's listening. So the only thing I was worried about was my friends making fun of me, but then you just have to not give a shit what your friends think. And also I tried to be as authentic as possible and as real as possible. So if my friends even wanted to make fun of me, they couldn't say that I was being fake. They could just say, oh, look at Matt, he's trying to be an influencer, which I wasn't or could care less about being an influencer. But you just got to not give a shit. You got to not care what people are saying. Put it out there. I've noticed the more vulnerable I am, the more I share about myself that I maybe don't want to share, the more helpful it is to people. It's crazy. Like I'll say in the video about staying healthy while traveling, I said I get like really like embarrassed about working out in public, filming myself in public. And people are like, wow, this is crazy. Even Matt D'Avella gets nervous when going out in public. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like a person. I'm a human. And I think that the more you share that stuff, the vulnerabilities, and like just like the things that make us weird and unique is actually helpful and inspiring. And that's what's interesting about us. So don't hide what's interesting about you. A lot of people, they're just their own camera and they just need to be this straight cut person. It's like, just fucking let it back. Curse a little bit. You're going to lose people. I've lost over 80,000 subscribers since I started. I'm sure because people were offended that I curse. People were offended that I make inappropriate jokes, or because whatever it is, they think maybe my ideas are a little bit crazy. That's great. I don't want to be friends with everybody. I really don't. And in the real world, I don't want to. Every single person that I meet isn't going to become a lifelong friend. And every single person that watches one video of yours isn't going to be a lifelong subscriber. And that's totally cool. You just need to find a small group of people that are really into what you're doing. And then you can take it from there. Let's see. How much time? I don't even know how long this has been. I should have done a timer because I don't know how long this is. But I will do one more question here to wrap things up. How do you stay productive while working at home? Are there any habits that you practice to delineate home versus work life? For instance, I know someone who gets into work clothes even when he's working from home. That's really funny. And I know that I know some people that have done that as well, where like they put on their work pants and then they take a walk around the block and then they come right back in their house. I've heard people do that, which I think is cool. But for me, I had more trouble with it early on. Especially when I was working from my bedroom. I would be working at my computer. I'd get some stuff done, and then I'd feel real tired, and then I'd just hop back in bed, and then I'd start sleeping for like 2 to 3 hours, and I would procrastinate like crazy, leaving it down to the deadline. And for me, I just got tired of procrastinating. I got tired of putting things off to the last minute and always feeling behind. So that made me want to like actually be productive to get work done. It didn't come naturally to me. I'm naturally a messy person. I'm naturally not very organized, but it was about setting up systems and then creating routines every day to just start working and get the work done. So a big motivator for me is knowing that I want to go to the gym usually in the afternoon. Sometimes I'll go in the morning, but for the most part, I'll go around 11 to 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And to me, that helps me. Okay, I need to get like 3-4 hours worth of work done, maybe 5 hours worth of work done before I go to the gym. Then I go to the gym before the rush, and then I can come back, maybe do a little bit of work, and then wrap up. Waking up early has helped me a lot. It has made more time. It has made me feel less rushed. And then also, like I said, making a little bit of time for yourself in the morning has helped me as well. I mean, I do personal tasks while at home as well. It's one of the great things about being able to work from home is that actually right now I stopped it because I'm recording this, but I'm doing laundry. And a lot of times I'm running around picking up stuff. And in LA, traffic can be crazy, obviously, during rush hour. So in the middle of the day is a great time to run around and do chores. So I try to take advantage of that time. And I don't really mind that there's my work life and my personal life flow into one another, as long as I feel like I'm not neglecting one or the other. And that just takes a daily practice of making sure that I'm paying attention to myself and the people around me to be aware of when things may be falling out of balance. But that does it for this week's / month's AMA. And I hope you guys like this. This was a lot of fun. I really like this backdrop. I'm like really into it. I think this is cool. I haven't actually recorded my next video yet for next week, but I think that's gonna be this is gonna be a cool little setup for how to do things in the future. But anyway, stay tuned for more stuff. You guys know I make videos very often here. Hope you're getting something out of it. If you have any ideas for the shorter, like vlog style videos or the shorter videos, let me know and I'll see if I can fit that in to the works. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.